Hi guys, I'm Gasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times to discuss books and horror. And today I bring you 10 book recommendations if you love horror books that have mixed media.
It's coffee time!
Mixed media in books is something that I have always loved. I've always loved when books in one way or another are kind of interactive with the reader. I think books that have mixed media in a way make you participate a little bit more in the story, especially when you have to figure out perhaps a crime. When I was a kid, I used to love those books where you could choose your own story, which were also kind of interactive books. And as an adult, I still love those, but I really enjoy books that have some sort of crime or haunted house, and we get to see like journals, and we get to see letters, and we get to see like newspaper clips, pictures, like anything. I love that visual stimuli. And also when you see a TV show, when you see a movie and they're trying to solve a crime, they always have a compilation of like video footage. They have interviews, they have diaries, journals, newspaper clips. They have all of these different documents, and all of these things helps them figure out the case, and it's all part of the investigation. So I think having that in a book also makes it more engaging, and you can definitely bring that to a book. Now that we are living in a more modern society, we also have chats, we have podcasts, we have text messages on the phone, we have all of these new possibilities when it comes to mixed media in books, which makes it also quite interesting and exciting as a reader, because there are so many new possibilities that are opening for us, because we have now all of these social media and all these different apps and things that can be used for horror. And I think that movies have done a good job at bringing that to the screen in the recent years, and books are getting there as well. I've always loved, like I said, this kind of mixed media in books. One of my favorite classic books of all times is Dracula by Bram Stoker, and that one has mixed media. It has diary entries and it has letters, so it is one of the first books, I guess, that had mixed media in them, and I really love that book. I think it's also still very accessible to younger readers when it comes to classics, and I think it's very dynamic because of that mixed media. It makes it, even though it's an older book, it still makes it so entertaining and so kind of like exciting to read because of all of the exchange of letters and diary entries. So if you've never read Dracula and you were scared, I say just give it a chance. And now let's go to the list of the 10 horror books that have mixed media that I'm here to recommend. Episode 13 by Craig DeLuey, and this is one that I have been really excited to read, and it's one of the books that I am reading for the Evil-a-thon this month of November. It follows a TV crew as they are investigating. They do this program in which they investigate haunted places in order to get footage of ghosts. So they're trying to prove that ghosts exist. It's called Fade to Black, and it has a series of experts that go into haunted places and they turn it into a TV show, which is something, you know, that we have seen done before, but I was really intrigued about the fact that this had mixed media in it. And I decided to go to the Paranormal Research Foundation, which is one of the places that everybody that loves to go to haunted places, that is kind of like the holy grail, that is like the place that they want to go to, because in that place supposedly there were some bizarre experiments that took place in the 1970s, and so the story is told through journal entries, through tapes, and this is one that, like I said, I'm really excited about. Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke by Eric LaRocca, and this one was one of those novellas that I sat down to read and I had to read in one go. I know you've heard me talking about this so much, but I'm still here recommending it to you because it was such like a unique take, and it is a novella that connects two different women through a chat room. And things don't go quite as they anticipated. It's very interesting because one of them is trying to sell like a unique apple peeler, and the other one is a potential buyer, so that's how they come in touch with each other through a chat room. And then they start talking and things escalate from there, and you know, it gets very dark, very gruesome, very disturbing. But I thought it was so genius to do it the way he did it with this chat room and the messages, and I think it's a great novella with mixed media. Next we have Horror Store by Grady Hendrix, and I finally got a copy of this, so I will be reading it really soon. So this is basically a ripoff of an IKEA store, and basically the workers at the store realize that things have been vandalized. Like, it seems like you know, they're broken bookshelves, stuff like that. They don't know what's going on, and they start to panic a little bit. Like, every night it seems that things are moving by themselves, things are, you know, appearing broken the next morning. And so there are 3 workers that decide to volunteer to spend a whole night inside of the store to try to figure out how are these things being like broken, misplaced, and what is actually going on here at night. Is it, I don't know, rats, cats, what is going on inside the store at night? I am really curious about this one because it is 100% like a mixed media. It looks almost like an IKEA catalog, and I think that's a genius idea. I thought it was such a fun concept, and you know, coming from Grady Hendrix, you know it's gonna be humor on it. So this is one of the few books, I think it might be the, no, there's another one that I have not read, We Sold Our Souls. I think that one and Horror Store are the only ones by Grady Hendrix that I have not read yet, so I definitely need to get to it. Night Film by Marisa Pessel, and this is another one that I recently bought this year, and I really need to get to because it sounds fantastic, and I know a lot of people have said this is quite disturbing, and it does include some mixed media. This one is more about figuring out what happened to a girl that appeared murdered, and they did try to rule this as a suicide at the beginning, but there was an investigator that was certain that this was not suicide, that this was homicide. When they are investigating this girl's lives, they realized that her father was a very controversial filmmaker that did some kind of gruesome and really dark films, and I am really intrigued to see if that is related to what happened to her or not. But there are like pictures and things inside of the book, and I didn't want to browse too much because I don't want to get spoiled. But like I said, I heard this is quite intense, and it's one of those that I've always wanted to read. So yeah, I'm really excited to get to this one, and I should make it a priority for 2024. Burn the Negative by Josh Winning. This is a recent release from this year, and it was a great story about a cursed film. We have a woman that when she was a kid, she was a Hollywood actress, and her biggest role was in a horror movie that was supposed to be haunted. After the movie wrapped up, the people that worked in the movie started to die in strange circumstances that almost mirrored the deaths from the movie, so people started talking about it being a cursed film. Now, as an adult, she's forced to return to the studio that the movie was filmed, and she starts to, you know, get back a lot of those memories from her past, and people start to die again around her. This was a horror mystery that was a lot of fun. It was really like dark and obscure, and it was really unique and interesting. If you love stories about cursed films, definitely check it out. And it also has mixed media, of course. It has also a lot of like parts of the script and things that were in the media promoting the film or talking about, you know, the cursed film. So it does have mixed media always between chapters. The Dead House by Dawn Krutajic, and this is YA, but it is quite dark. And this one is also told through diary entries by a girl that is going to therapy and is kind of writing down everything she's experiencing. This is a very scary psychological horror that is gonna have you guessing from the very beginning, like trying to figure out what's going on inside this girl's mind, what is real and what is not. This girl was at a boarding school in 2005 when 3 people perished in a fire, and we get to know that at the very beginning, and then we kind of see through her diary entries, we're kind of trying to figure out what happened that night. We are being like told, like fed information bit by bit in order to end up, you know, kind of understanding what happened that day and who was responsible for the fire and for the deaths. This is a story that's still being investigated, and apart from the diary entries, the therapy sessions, we have also some video entries. I thought those were really great, really well written. Basically, you're seeing like camera footage, but you're reading it, and it is so interactive, and I really enjoy this book, but you know, keep in mind it's quite dark. Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak, and this is one that I have just added to my TBR pile. Sharon was reading it in our sprints the first sprints that we had for the Evil-a-thon, and this is a book that I have wanted to read for some time, and she said she was really enjoying it. And then I found that it was for 99 cents on Kindle, so I bought it. So this is one that I'm definitely gonna read really soon. If I don't have time for it in November, then I'm definitely gonna read it in December. This is supposed to be a really imaginative take and a spin on your typical supernatural thriller, and it is about a nanny that is taking care of a young boy that I think he sees things and then he draws what he sees, and that can be quite unsettling as we are trying to figure out if what he's seeing is actual ghosts or what is actually going on. I think it's a really unique concept to have a supernatural thriller, and you know, we've seen kids being able to connect with the world of the dead. We've seen kids seeing ghosts, and of course the adults never believe them. But I think the interesting thing in this book is going to be to see the kids' drawings integrated in the book. That's something that, you know, made me really intrigued about the book, and I know that Nakia liked it, and I know that Sharon is enjoying it, so I really need to get to it. The next one is another book that I have on my list that I have seen around, that I have seen people talking about, and I think the cover is stunning, but I still have not picked up, sadly, and that is The Resurrectionist, the lost work of Dr. Spencer Black by E.B. Hudspeth. And I mean, that cover, I'm really intrigued about this book. We are in the 1870s, and we have this very controversial surgeon that is the son of a grave robber, so I'm expecting he gets corpses for free. And we have this guy that his understanding is that he thinks mythological creatures like mermaids and stuff like that might have been something that we have evolved from, but it might be part of our past. I think this is really interesting because a lot of historians and people have questioned, you know, when you see drawings with like dragons and other types of mythological creatures, you kind of question yourself if those actually did exist and then they went extinct like other ones, like dinosaurs and stuff like that, because that is a really interesting concept. And this has two books in one. The first part of the book is a fictional biography on the surgeon himself, and the second part has like the illustrations of these creatures and kind of like the in-depth studies that he did that you can combine and take a look at while you're reading his story. I don't know, this sounds like so interactive and so fun, and possibly a little bit weird and messed up, so this is one that I really need to get myself. I need to buy this book. House of Leaves by Mark Danielewski. Now, I know this book divides people. It is quite a chunky book. It's a book that a lot of people are gonna need a lot of time to get through. It's a book that demands a lot from the reader because it's telling you two stories. One of them is being told through the regular pages, but then the footnotes tell you a different story. But it's all kind of related, and it's just so much fun if you can just lean into it and just go for it full in. At its core, this is a book about a haunted house, a family that is living in a house where weird things start to happen, and they decide to investigate, and things get really dark really soon. So the father decides that because there is something really wrong in this house, in its rooms, and he discovers kind of like a hallway that takes him to something really deep into the house's core, he decides he's going to film the experience and take cameras with him and try to, you know, film it. And it was just so dark and unique and beautiful, but I understand that this book is not going to be for everybody. As the book progresses, there is more and more mixed media that is being integrated in it, and it's quite difficult to read. I know that for people that are dyslexic, this book is not friendly for them. I think this book is very challenging, but I also feel like you should not be scared to dive into this book. I was kind of scared going into it because of everything that I had heard, but I just sat down and took it almost like I was going to school and I had to read this book like a textbook. And that really worked for me. And I committed to the experience and I made sure to read everything and pay attention to everything and take my time. I didn't try to rush through the book. I really read it like slowly and let everything sink in. And I had the time of my life. I really love this book. And last we have Chasing the Boogeyman by Richard Chisma, and this one is the perfect blend between true crime and horror fiction. The book is told from the author's perspective, and at times you feel almost like you're reading his own memoir, but then he's also telling you about an investigation of a true crime story. We will explore the town before, during, and after these crimes have been committed, and it's also a place the author knows really well because it is also where he comes from. So he's basically talking about a true crime story that happened where he came from and a story that resonates with him. In a way, it felt similar to I'll Be Gone in the Dark, but I'll Be Gone in the Dark is a 100% non-fiction book about a real investigation that took place, while this one, it's still a lot of it fictional, and it tells the story of some brutal murders that happened in the late 80s. And like I said, the author was familiar with it and decided to write about it, kind of combining that true crime story with horror fiction. And I really had a good time, and I think partly is because I am a true crime fan. I love to read about true crime and watch documentaries, so if you're like me in that regard, I think you will enjoy this one. And those were my 10 horror book recommendations that include mixed media. Let me know down below which ones have you read, which ones you know of that I didn't mention. Let's talk about it in the comments down below. Do you enjoy mixed media in your books? Let's discuss it. Thank you guys, as always, so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in our next coffee time. Bye!